Graduation day was supposed to be perfect. The air buzzed with laughter, students in navy robes tossed caps into the sky, and proud families filled the bleachers with flowers and camera flashes. For a moment, I felt the same joy as everyone else, until I heard the voice that cut sharper than any blade. "Why did you take my money?" Heads turned. My sister, Emily, stood a few feet away, her cheeks burning red, her diploma trembling in her hand. Her voice was loud enough to silence the nearby crowd. I froze, clutching the envelope I had kept tucked in my jacket all day. "What are you talking about?" I asked, though I already knew. "You withdrew $12,000 from our account," she spat, stepping closer, her gown swishing angrily around her legs. "That was supposed to cover my rent, my car, everything. And you," she jabbed her finger at my chest, "you stole it." I could feel the weight of dozens of eyes on us. My classmates whispered, families leaned in. This was supposed to be her big day, but instead, it was turning into a public courtroom. I drew a deep breath, steadying myself. "Maybe because it was never yours," I said, keeping my tone calm, almost too calm. Her mouth fell open, her fury momentarily replaced by confusion. "What are you talking about? That money was ours." Before I could answer, another voice broke in, sharp, commanding. "Then you'll cover her rent tomorrow," Mom snapped, pushing through the crowd. Her face, polished with makeup and framed by carefully sprayed hair, twisted into something between anger and triumph. "Do you understand me? You'll give Emily that money back, or you'll regret it." The crowd gasped. Some parents pulled their children closer, as if the spectacle might stain them too. Emily's friends looked away awkwardly, pretending not to stare, but their ears were wide open. I forced a smile, not out of amusement, but out of defiance. "I don't think so," I said softly. And then I walked away, my footsteps echoing against the pavement. Behind me, I heard Emily's voice crack. "You can't just leave." But I didn't stop. When I reached my car, I opened the trunk and lifted out a cardboard box. I carried it back, steady and deliberate, ignoring the whispers that followed me. My mother's glare met me like a storm, but I simply set the box down on the porch of the house we all still technically shared. Without a word, I turned and walked away. "Wait," Emily called out, desperation now mixed with her rage. "What's in the box?" I didn't answer. The truth was sitting there, waiting for them. A truth wrapped in cardboard and tape. A truth that would burn every illusion they clung to. And as I walked into the golden haze of late afternoon, I knew that once they opened that box, nothing in our family would ever be the same again. The box sat on the porch like a stranger no one wanted to invite inside. Emily hovered over it, clutching her diploma so tightly the edge cut into her palm. Mom crossed her arms, tapping her heel against the wooden step, glaring at me even though I was already halfway down the street. "Don't just stand there," Mom barked. "Open it." Emily knelt down, tearing at the tape with her nails. She lifted the flaps, and her face shifted from anger to confusion, then to something far heavier. Inside, neatly stacked, were bank statements, receipts, and old photographs. On top of the pile was a leather-bound journal with our father's initials engraved on it. Emily lifted the journal, frowning. Why would he give this to us?" Mom stepped forward, snatching it from her hands. She flipped through the pages until one of them made her freeze. Her lips tightened. "Mom," Emily asked, voice trembling, "what is it?" But Mom didn't answer right away. Instead, she snapped the journal shut and stuffed it under her arm. "This is garbage," she hissed. "He's trying to manipulate us." Emily's confusion deepened. Manipulate us? With Dad's old journal? What could possibly? She stopped herself, her eyes flicking toward me. I had paused at the edge of the driveway, watching them. I stepped closer, my voice low but steady. "Maybe you should actually read what's inside before calling it garbage." Emily looked between us, torn. "What does it say? What's in it?" I locked eyes with Mom. "Tell her, or I will." Mom's face went pale for the first time that day. She turned, trying to usher Emily back inside. "Not here. Not now. We'll deal with this later." But Emily yanked her arm free. "No, Mom. Not later. You just screamed at him in front of half the town. You made me look like a fool. And now there's a box full of secrets? We're not waiting. Tell me." Her voice cracked, and for the first time, the crowd around us grew silent. Not out of curiosity now, but out of respect for the kind of pain that had just spilled out. I took a step forward, closing the distance. "That money in the account," I said carefully, "wasn't from Mom. It wasn't from any of us. It was from Dad." Emily blinked. "Dad? But he's been gone for years. And Mom told me." Mom told you a lot of things, I interrupted. Like how the account was meant for both of us. Like how she worked 2 jobs to save it up. But the truth? That $12,000 was a part of something much bigger. Money Dad left behind. Money that. Enough. Mom's voice thundered, cutting me off. Her hand shook as she clutched the journal tighter. Don't poison her with lies. Then open the journal, I challenged. Emily's eyes darted between us, her breathing quickening. Finally, with a trembling hand, she snatched it back from Mom and flipped it open. Her eyes scanned the first page, then the second, and then she whispered, almost inaudible, It's true. Mom lunged forward to take it back, but Emily stepped away, holding the book to her chest. No, you lied to me. All this time you lied. Tears welled in her eyes as she turned to me. But why would she? Why hide it? The silence that followed was heavier than any shout. I exhaled, my voice dropping. Because if you knew where the money really came from, you'd start asking questions Mom never wanted answered. Emily looked at Mom, desperate. What questions? Mom didn't move, didn't speak. Her painted smile, the one she wore to every graduation, birthday, and holiday, cracked in the silence. And I knew then, this was only the beginning. Emily hugged the journal tightly, her knuckles white. She flipped page after page, her eyes scanning Dad's neat, looping handwriting. Each line seemed to whisper a story we weren't supposed to know. I stayed a step back, letting her uncover the truth herself. Mom leaned against the porch railing, silent, but her expression screamed warning. Finally, Emily looked up, her voice barely a whisper. He left this money for me? For us? I nodded. Yes. Dad saved it, invested it. It was meant to give you a head start in life. But Mom, I hesitated, choosing my words carefully. Mom wanted to control it, keep it all for herself. Mom's hand flew to her mouth, as if to silence me, but it was too late. The words hung in the air like smoke. Emily shook her head, confusion and betrayal twisting her features. All this time, I thought it was ours to spend together. And you just took it? Yes, I admitted, my voice calm. Because I knew it would never truly be yours if you didn't understand the full story. Mom's voice cracked. You don't understand anything. That money was supposed to protect you from yourself. I cut in sharply. From being manipulated. From believing lies about what Dad wanted. Emily's eyes darted between us. So, Mom lied. All these years. Mom's hands trembled as she tried to compose herself. It wasn't lying, it was guidance. You're too young to understand finances, responsibilities. I made decisions for your own good. Emily laughed, but it was hollow, bitter. Guidance. Mom, you stole from me. You stole Dad's money from me. I took a deep breath, watching the storm unfold. It's not just about the money, I said softly. It's about trust. You can't just claim someone else's hard-earned savings as your own without understanding their intentions. Emily's hands shook as she hugged the journal again. So what do we do now? How do we fix this? Mom's face softened for a moment, almost vulnerable. We could figure it out together. But I knew better. There was no going back. The truth had been unleashed. The box, the journal, the money, they had broken the illusion of our family forever. Emily finally closed the journal, her eyes glistening with tears. I need time, she whispered. I can't deal with this right now. I nodded, understanding. Take all the time you need. But remember, hiding the truth never makes it disappear. Mom watched me, her expression unreadable. And you, she said, her voice sharp again. You think you're the hero here? Walking away like this? I smiled faintly, the sun catching my eyes. No, I'm just a messenger. With that, I turned, feeling the weight of years of secrets lift slightly off my shoulders. I knew this was just the beginning. The box was only the first revelation, the journal the second. But the hardest part, the confrontation with Mom, was yet to come. And somewhere deep inside, I felt a strange mix of sorrow and relief. For the first time in years, the truth was ours, unfiltered and unguarded. The next morning, the air in our house was thick with tension. The box still sat on the porch, half forgotten by Mom, yet fully claiming Emily's attention. She hadn't slept, barely eaten, her mind spinning with every revelation from the journal. I returned, wanting to see if they were ready to talk. Mom emerged from the kitchen, arms crossed, her face a mask of indignation. So you're back. What now? Are you going to lecture us some more? I shrugged, trying to keep my voice calm. No lectures, just facts. Mom huffed. Facts? You mean lies wrapped as truths? You think you're some kind of savior, don't you? Emily stepped between us, holding the journal like a shield. Mom, please, can we just talk? I need to understand everything. Mom's eyes narrowed. Understand? You mean you want him to manipulate you again with twisted stories about what your father left behind? Twisted stories? I asked, my tone rising. This isn't twisted. It's exactly what Dad intended. And hiding it? That's manipulation, pure and simple. Emily's voice shook as she added, Mom, why didn't you tell me? Why did you act like it was all yours? Mom's hands trembled, her composure slipping for the first time. I thought I was protecting you. You were always so reckless. I wanted to make sure you didn't waste everything Dad worked for. And what about trust? I snapped. What about letting her make her own decisions? The room fell silent. Emily's tears fell freely now, but she didn't move from her spot. She looked at each of us, as if seeing both sides of a war she never agreed to fight. Finally, she spoke, voice low but firm. I don't care who's right or wrong. I need my life back. I need to know I can stand on my own, with what Dad left me, without anyone controlling me. Mom's shoulders sagged, the fight in her eyes dimming slightly. Emily, I only wanted to protect you. Emily shook her head. No, Mom, you wanted to control me. That's different. I stepped forward gently. Emily, the money, the journal, it's a chance to start fresh, to rebuild trust. But it's also a choice. You can forgive, or you can walk away. It's up to you. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mix of anger, confusion, and hope. I don't know if I can forgive yet, but I need to make my own choices, and I need space to do that. Mom swallowed hard. And you, what about you? Emily's gaze softened. I want him to stay. I need him in my life, but not as a referee between Mom and me, just as my brother. I nodded, understanding. I can do that. I'll be there for you always, but I won't let anyone take away what's yours. Not now, not ever. Mom exhaled, looking exhausted, defeated. Maybe I overstepped. Emily's voice was quiet but resolute. Maybe you did, but we can try again, if we're honest this time. I glanced at both of them, the morning sun filtering through the kitchen window, casting long shadows on the floor. For the first time in years, I felt a fragile sense of hope. Hope that the secrets, the anger, the betrayals, they could be faced. And maybe, just maybe, our family could survive this storm. But even as the room settled into uneasy quiet, I knew the hardest truths were still ahead. The journal had revealed only part of Dad's plans. There were letters, accounts, and promises yet to surface. And once those came to light, the real test of loyalty, courage, and forgiveness would begin. Chapter 5, Letters That Burn. 2 days later, I returned home with a stack of old envelopes I had found hidden in Dad's study. Dust coated their edges, and the handwriting was unmistakable. Dad's careful, slanted script. I placed them gently on the kitchen table. Emily entered, her eyes widening. Where did you get those? From Dad's old desk, I said. There's more to this story, and you deserve to see it. Mom appeared behind her, her face pale. You don't need to do this, she said, but her voice wavered, betraying her fear. Emily tore open the first envelope. Inside was a letter addressed to her, written years before she was even old enough to read. Her eyes scanned it quickly, her breath catching. To my daughter, Emily, she whispered. He wrote this for me? He planned for me to have this money all along? Yes, I said, and not just the money. He left instructions, advice, everything. He wanted you to learn from him, not be trapped by Mom's control. Mom stepped forward, her hand shaking. Emily, don't believe everything you read. People change, circumstances change. Emily cut her off sharply. No, Mom. I think it's time I decide for myself. She unfolded another letter, this one marked with my name. And he wrote to you too? I nodded, reading silently over her shoulder. The letter was a mixture of advice and confession. Dad spoke of mistakes he'd made, of regrets, of a desire for honesty between siblings. Emily's voice cracked. He trusted us. He trusted us to make our own choices, to learn, even if we failed. Mom's face fell. And you think you're following his wishes by taking the money? Emily's hand tightened around the letters. It's not just about the money. It's about truth. About being allowed to have our own lives, without lies or manipulation. I stepped closer to Emily. He left more than money. He left a chance to break the cycle, to finally be honest with each other. Mom's eyes filled with tears. I didn't know. I thought I was helping. I didn't realize. Emily shook her head, finally letting some of her anger soften. It's too late for that now. We have to start fresh, and we start with honesty. No more secrets. I glanced at Mom, hoping she understood. It won't be easy, but it's the only way we can survive this family, truly survive. Emily looked at me, clutching the letters tightly. And if we fail? I smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Then at least we tried, and at least we did it together. Mom swallowed, her expression conflicted. I want to try too. I want to make things right. The room was silent for a long moment, the weight of past betrayals hanging between us. But for the first time in years, there was a fragile thread of connection, a chance to rebuild what had been broken. And as we sat together, reading Dad's letters, I realized that the money, the journal, the secrets, they were not just burdens. They were keys. Keys to understanding, forgiveness, and maybe, just maybe, a family that could finally be whole again. The weekend arrived, and the house felt smaller, heavier, filled with the echoes of unspoken truths. Mom barely touched her coffee, and Emily kept the journal close, almost as if it were a lifeline. I knew that today would decide everything, whether we remained fractured or finally confronted the past. I found Mom in the living room, pacing. I still don't understand why you had to take the money, she said, her voice low but sharp. I met her gaze calmly. Because you refused to let Emily see the truth. You tried to control what was never yours to control. Dad left that money for her, and she deserves it. Mom's lips quivered. You think I didn't love her? I only wanted to keep her safe. I took a deep breath, careful with my next words. Safety isn't possession. Safety is honesty. And you kept her from the truth for too long. Emily entered, holding the leather-bound journal and several of Dad's letters. Mom, she said, her voice firm, he's right. I love you, but I can't keep living under rules that aren't mine. The money, the letters, they're not just about finances. They're about trust, about choices, about the life Dad wanted us to have. Mom's shoulders sagged, tears glistening in her eyes. I was wrong. I see that now. Emily stepped closer, offering the journal. We can move forward, but only if we're honest with each other. No more secrets, no more lies. I watched silently as Mom accepted the journal, her hands trembling. I promise, she whispered. I will try. For a long moment, the room was quiet, heavy with relief and grief alike. Then Emily smiled faintly. Then maybe we can start again. Together. I nodded. Together. The air shifted, lighter now, though the scars remained. We spent the day going through Dad's letters and journal, uncovering not just instructions about money, but stories of his hopes, his regrets, and his love for both of us. Every page revealed a new layer, reminding us why he had left these pieces of himself behind. By the evening, Mom had prepared dinner, a simple meal, but it felt like a gesture of reconciliation. Emily and I sat beside her, the journal open on the table, reading passages aloud, sharing memories, and even laughing for the first time in weeks. I realized then that the box on the porch, the money, and the letters weren't just catalysts for conflict. They were bridges. Bridges to understanding, forgiveness, and maybe the start of a new chapter for our family. As the sun set, casting golden light across the living room, I felt a quiet sense of peace. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but we had begun. And for the first time in years, it felt like we were finally on the same side, facing life together. The morning sun spilled through the kitchen window, illuminating the box still sitting on the porch. It had been 2 days since I first left it there, and now it felt like a relic of a battle finally coming to an end. Emily approached it cautiously, journal in hand, Mom following behind. Are you really going to open it? Mom asked softly, her voice tinged with fear and hope. Emily nodded. We need to know. All of it. No more hiding. Together, they lifted the flaps, revealing the contents, stacks of letters, bank statements, and Dad's carefully labeled notes. But at the very bottom, wrapped in soft velvet, lay something unexpected, a small, ornate box with a keyhole. Emily picked it up with trembling hands. What's this? I smiled faintly. That's the part Dad left just for you two. Open it together. Mom's hands shook as Emily inserted the tiny key she found tucked in the journal. With a soft click, the box opened. Inside was a letter addressed to both of them, along with 2 small envelopes containing keys. One was to a safety deposit box in Dad's name, the other to a small cabin he had owned in the countryside. Emily read aloud, her voice cracking. To my daughters, if you're reading this, it means the truth has finally surfaced. These keys are more than money or property. They are trust. They are freedom. Use them wisely. Support each other. Protect your family. And above all, live honestly, without fear. Love, Dad. Mom gasped, tears streaming down her face. I can't believe he left this for us, for her, for both of you. Emily hugged her tightly. He did. And now it's ours, not just the money, but the choice of how we live our lives. I watched them, my heart heavy and light at the same time. The anger, the betrayals, the years of hidden truths, they all led here. To this moment of reconciliation, understanding, and the promise of a new beginning. Mom looked at me, gratitude and remorse shining in her eyes. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you can forgive me. I nodded. I already have. And I hope we can move forward. Together. Emily smiled, her tears glinting in the morning sun. Together, she echoed. The box, once a symbol of secrets and confrontation, had transformed into a symbol of hope. Every letter, every note, every key represented more than just inheritance. It was trust restored, love reaffirmed, and a chance to build something real. As we closed the box and set it safely on the shelf, I realized that life wasn't about money or control or even the past. It was about choices, the courage to face the truth, the willingness to forgive, and the strength to embrace each other despite everything. And for the first time in years, our family felt like a family again.